Good morning. I am William A. Reed, Jr., Professor of Psychology here at Albany State University, and I'm delighted to welcome each of you to our first Interdisciplinary Research Symposium. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Lawrence Drake, who is our interim president. He joined us in June of last year to bring the welcome address for the university. Dr. Drake.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. First of all, let me say a couple of things. One is that I am absolutely delighted that this forum and symposium is coming together for a couple of reasons. One of the things I get very concerned about is when I look across the university, I don't see enough where faculty and students in particular are collaborating together on research phenomenon. As you know, all of you know, we're not an R1 institution nor an R2 necessarily, but we are a comprehensive university, hopefully very soon when we actually are able to launch our first doctoral program. And we certainly have submitted our information and proposal to do so. And I think as soon as we name two new officers, one the new president and the new provost, those two positions, we will get permission to proceed with the proposal, and which I think is going to be amazing for ASU. In addition to that, though, I would say that one of the most important things that doesn't require us to have R1 or R2 status is the collaboration across disciplines. I see, as a psychologist as well as Dr. Reed, one of the things that is really interesting is, for example, I don't see us studying how different disciplines are merging and using data analytics, technology across disciplines. For example, how are psychologists using data and data analytics today if they're a clinician or if they're just a researcher? How is that coming together? And more importantly, how is that coming together in the Black community? As you know, Black subject matter or Black aspirants, those who are part of research data, is still very scarce because we don't go out into the Black community actually and use them for subjects. Now, we do some of that, I think, in our HBCU community, but not nearly enough. The other thing is that I very rarely see two PIs from two different disciplines collaborating on a research project. I see a PI over here and they're doing their thing, and another PI over here doing their thing. But what I don't see is enough collaboration, and what I hope this kind of symposium does is sort of light a fire under the opportunity for researchers to come together and say, you know what, this phenomenon is relevant in my discipline, and it's relevant in your discipline, and we should have a way of coming together. The final point that I'll make about this is that I hope that also our students become researchers during their academic journey. If it were up to me, and even though I'm going to be passing the baton to a new president, I'm certainly going to emphasize the point that I believe that students, when they come here to us to become learners, that research methods is a part of the core curriculum. Why is that? Because research methods lays the foundation for them to understand how to analyze data, phenomenon, and other stimulating research data. And I think that's important because if you really understand how to do research, when you look at your social media pages, you'll understand what is truth and what is not, because you're going to be better at researching who the authors of that particular comments or commentary or narrative might be. And in my research area, which is, I'm a media psychologist, so my research area is between cognitive science, media innovation, and psychological review. And if the psychological applications apply to media, which it always does, then you get to see things like semiotics, which are signs and symbols and words. Words are a phenomenon that we study, not just the impact of words when we speak it, but sort of the impact of narratives when they actually permeate society. And we're dealing right now in an era when words really do matter. A lot of the things that we are reading today it's hard to interpret where it's going and who's saying it and the impact of what they're saying. So my research area is actually pretty robust right now because I'm having a lot of fun looking at what is the narrative that we are learning about in our institutions, particularly in historically black colleges and universities. I'll give you one other point that I'd like you to take on. When you think about this symposium, what I'd love for you to think about is, as you look at the various professors and faculty who are getting a chance to present to an audience that they don't generally get a chance to talk to. One of my biggest criticisms of the academic community or the academy in general is that we talk to ourselves. We essentially present research and peer review research or journals, and we talk to each other. And we speak languages that the average person doesn't really know, or we have words in our vernacular that they don't know what they mean, because we're either part of a research methodology or they're part of a particular way in which we express our research, whether that be in quantitative or qualitative analysis. Well, I'd like to see us present research that the average person in the street, in the hood, could read and know what it means. And the only way we're going to do that is to be able to have collaborative efforts of people who come from those communities to understand how to talk to those people. And those people are our people. They're the people that we recruit to come to our institution. So this is an exciting opportunity, I think, to collaborate, an exciting opportunity to listen and hear some of the great work that's already taking place. And I certainly am grateful to Dr. Reed for taking the lead and putting this together, and certainly Dr. Jordan as well. What I hope is that this is the first of many, and I hope to come back and visit another symposium 4 or 5 years from now, see this room, well, maybe in a different building, completely full, because we won't have room enough in this building to accommodate the work and the research that you all are doing. So, Dr. Reed, thank you. Welcome to everybody, and enjoy what I think and hope will be a terrific day.
Thank you, Dr. Drake. Professor Cassandra Jordan, who has done a phenomenal job organizing as well. She's the backbone behind this symposium. Dr. Jordan will introduce our keynote speaker, and we will be ready to proceed with the day.
All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Thank you all so much for joining us for, as Dr. Reed has said, our very first Interdisciplinary Research Symposium. I'm glad to see those of you who are here today. And as President Drake has said, this will be the catalyst, the beginning of something great in terms of collaboration between faculty amongst each other. So thank you. And so can we just give yourselves a hand for showing up this morning? Thank you so much. Thank you. And so thanks to Dr. Drake for those words. Thank you to our provost for being here this morning with us, and to everyone in their respectful places. And so I am here to introduce our speaker for today. And one of the things that I wanted to say in preparation for this was that, everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's talking about AI. And in my research, and I've gone to seminars across the country about AI and what's happening. But one thing that AI cannot do, AI does not have the capacity to be curious. And as all of us know, as professors, we know that research starts with what? It starts with curiosity. So people who are curious, asking the questions who, what, when, where, and why, nothing will ever be able to replace that. And so I wanted to just put that out there, that always remain curious. And to our students who are here, always remain curious. You never know. That's where your business will start. That's where your book will begin. That's where you transforming something in society will start, with you simply being curious. And so with that being said, I want to tell you all how I came across the Honorable Judge Tangela M. Barrie. I was curious, or some people might say nosy. Right? But I was watching a short on YouTube, and it was a court case, and I was intrigued by it, and I was watching the case, and I loved the way that she handled the courtroom. I love the way that she dealt with the people who were in the court. And my question was, who is this woman? She's a judge, but she has the heart of a mother. She has the heart of someone who is caring and is concerned. And I'm like, who is this woman? And so in my office, Hartnett Hall 314, right upstairs, I did my research, and I found out that the Honorable Judge Tangela M. Barrie, was a sociology major at this great Albany State University. And so, I'm a little biased when it comes to sociology. So when I saw sociology, I was like, ooh. And so I read that and I was like, wow. She started here and she went to the very top of her profession. And so for me today, that's what this is about. I'm not so concerned about the numbers, but of course we do want this to grow and get bigger and bigger. But the students who are here, I want you to know that she is a living testimony of where you can start. Start here at ASU and go anywhere. And like I tell people, ASU, we got the gold. We got the gold. And so the judge, Honorable Judge Tangela M. Barrie, was elected to the Superior Court of DeKalb County in 2008. She is now in her 17th year of service. She was the youngest Superior Court judge elected to the circuit. She handles felony criminal cases and a range of civil matters, including adoptions, divorces, personal injury, and contract disputes. Prior to taking the bench, Judge Barrie was assigned to the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office Domestic Violence Sexual Assault Unit. Her tireless work earned her the Boundless Commitment to the Community Award in 2006, and she was named Prosecuting Attorney of the Year in 2007. She is a zealous advocate for young lawyers and our youth. She is an active member of several service organizations, such as Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and the National Council of Negro Women, DeKalb chapter. Judge Barrie is and has been on the board of various professional organizations, and she currently serves on the board of overseers at Stetson College of Law in Florida. She has been recognized with many awards during her tenure as judge. She is the devoted wife to Dr. Mahmoud Barrie and mother of 3 sons. And so if you all would you please just stand and give her a warm, courteous ASU welcome, Judge Barrie.
About 16 years ago, on December 2nd, 2008, I was in a restaurant surrounded by my family and friends, watching the DeKalb County polls results from my first judicial election. I was on this night wondering about the power of me. It was on this night that I understood the power of me. And so today, I believe that I can show you as well the power of you. So as those numbers rolled in, I stood quietly at my watch party in this small restaurant in DeKalb County, Georgia. I was up in the polls, but I was afraid to be happy. Was this real? Was this gonna happen to me? I recall thinking, am I good enough for this to be true? Am I special enough? I thought back over all of my life choices and sacrifices, but still, can this happen to me? Can I become the Superior Court judge for DeKalb County at 35 years of age, the youngest in its history, this little Black girl from small town Thomasville, Georgia? And I stood there in that restaurant. I worried about how far I was away from the judgeship. And it dawned on me that perhaps I was never that far from achieving my dreams at all. This was always my dream to have and to claim. God knows my existence and wants me to be everything that I am. You see, in that moment, I understood. Every last one of us, particularly as a child, if you recall, you believed that you were made for a purpose, and that purpose was to save the world. I mean, think about it. How many countless times did we play the hero, the doctor, the lawyer, the nurse, the movie star, the musician? We were allowed to transform and be anything that we wanted. Obstacles were not in the way. It was only about our imaginations. But as we got older, we allowed the noise to come in, and then we start to wonder, are we too poor, too black, not smart enough? And then we doubt ourselves. We doubt that we're good enough, special enough, strong enough, skinny enough, smart enough, black enough, tough enough, pretty enough of enough. And as I stood in that restaurant, I had to answer a question. Am I worthy? Yes. Yes, heaven knows my existence. And finally, I was able to let myself believe, just as I did as a kid, that I could save the world and that I should never let go of that feeling. And I get it. Sometimes self-doubt is hard, but understanding self-worth is pivotal. There's a scene in a movie, Creed, and where the young boxer, he's asked Rocky Balboa, the prize fighter, to help him train and become the best boxer he could become, because he wasn't going to settle for anything less. And so Rocky tells him, he says, okay, I want you to look into the mirror. You see that man right there in the mirror? That's your toughest opponent. How you feel about yourself can make the difference between success and failures. Remember, your young Black lives matter. And I grant you the authority to reign over your self-worth. And so on December 2nd, 2008, I became the youngest Superior Court judge in DeKalb County history. Me from Thomasville, Georgia. Me from Albany State. Me from non-Harvard Stetson University. But then on January 1, 2009, I was able to put on this robe. This one. So let me thank the interim Albany State College in general. And then I want to thank the interim president, Dr. Drake, Dr. Reed, Professor Jordan, specifically for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences. So we grow from what we see. When I was young, I wanted to become a lawyer. I knew this ever since I was 12 years old. I recall looking in occupation books at the library. You see, I love going to the library because reading is fundamental and the most powerful tool for success. And I would go to the library and I would sit under the tables in the library and I would read Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, Alfred Hitchcock books, mystery books. But every now and then I would go over to the nonfiction section and I would look up books on occupations. And I read the description of what it would take to become an attorney. And I started plotting right then and there. You see, I love public speaking, so I understood that I had a talent for one of the criteria that it would take for being a lawyer. And I started doing things related to that talent, like the drama club, debate club, things of that nature, much like a little leaguer finding out that he can shoot and start then going outside, honing in on that skill, continuing to do that, to go to various practices. Now, I understand that there is a rub here. You see, everybody doesn't always discover their talent early. Individual talent appears at different times. Sometimes they appear more naturally, such as a child who can read at the age of 2, and sometimes those talents have to be cultivated. Sometimes other people have to find them for you, like, oh, wow, you have a beautiful voice, or I love how you play the trumpet, it is so unique. And sometimes you have to discover them yourself, such as, boy, I love cooking. Maybe I should become a chef or open up a restaurant. But what is devastating for a community is when you do not understand that you have to find your talent. But that does not always happen without preparation. So I have this talent, I'm thinking to myself, but that does not translate. Like, how do it translate in being ready for college, taking that next step, going out into the world? I don't have a clue. However, my attitude will fill in the gap. I was always positive, and I preferred to see the glass half full rather than half empty. There was much I did not know, but what I did know was that it was my responsibility to seek out opportunities. And let me tell you, one of the best reasons for attending an HBCU is that you get to discover yourself. Albany State College allowed me to discover me. What happens here has nothing to do with race. Your grade is your grade. Your success is based upon your efforts. And if you have no opportunities, it's because you didn't seek them out. So while you're here, you must take feedback from your professors seriously. If your professors tell you that you are disorganized, that you need to be more careful, you need to evaluate those claims. Because while you're here on this campus, you're safe to discover you. Take that opportunity to figure you out. Because sometimes, or it might be one of the last opportunities that you have to do so without significant repercussions. Now, for example, I was not a strong writer. I almost flunked English. But I knew to become a lawyer, I needed to have strong writing skills. So some people were telling me, and actually I was not a sociology major, but I spent a lot of time in this building because initially I was a criminal justice major. But at some point I was told that I should consider English literature. And I was thinking, I hate English. But the teacher was saying to me, you're very creative, you have this creative spirit. And I was thinking about my grammar. And she was like, that's the point, right? And so I started majoring in English. I changed my major, I took the advice, I majored in English, best advice I ever had. I was ready for law school because I was accustomed to extended reading and logical writing. And it made all the difference. Second, I was told by retired professors, Dr. Nyota Tucker, to consider a pre-law program called CLEO, Council of Legal Education Opportunities. And I will be forever grateful to her, forever grateful, because that program was instrumental in how well I did in law school. See, Dr. Tucker noticed something that was different in me. She noticed that I wanted to succeed. She understood that I was seeking out opportunities. And so when an opportunity came, she presented it to me, and that has made the difference. I took advantage of everything that I could while I was here. I joined student government. I was first attendant to Miss Albany State. I pledged the Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated Delta Road chapter. I did what I needed to do to stand out. So after I completed the Council of Legal Education Opportunity, I got a full scholarship to Stetson University College of Law, which I now serve on the Board of Overseers. I did well there because I was prepared. I did well there because I was willing to take advice, even if it was something that I could not fully understand. And so the first advice that I was given when I was in law school was to get rid of the noise. Boyfriend and family drama, get rid of it. Trying to hang out every night, no place for it. Because with dreams, sacrifices have to be made. So I graduated within the top third of my class, and I began my journey. So I got married, had kids, went on to become an assistant district attorney. And I'm a young mother, so community service at that point was the last on my list. And I was doing the best I could with juggling my familial responsibilities and my job, but I had a strong work ethic. And so I was presented with an opportunity to work in the crimes, a new unit. It was the Crimes Against Women's unit. And essentially, this is a unit that prosecuted serial rapists in the county, domestic violence where women are murdered or serial murders of women in the county. It was a difficult unit, but I was given that opportunity to head that unit. And so when the judgeship arose, I already had a built-in system of support, people who believed in me, people who were ready to get on my campaign. Now, the pros of my candidacy at the time was that I was married to a doctor, I had 2 young boys, they were all cute for the photos, and I had a strong prosecution career. But my weakness was I was 33 years old, and I had the gumption to run a campaign at 33, but I was not heavily involved in the community, being a young mother and all. I was what the politicals call a dark horse. So a dark horse is a candidate for office for whom little is known and from whom expectations are low to win. So why was I able to win? Because I was on a journey to believe in my worth, because I was prepared, because I set myself up for success, largely based on what I did here at Albany State. This is because, and I'm sure since this is a research symposium, you will appreciate this, that the research says that consistently highlights the power of networking for career advancement, access to opportunities, and professional growth, with studies suggesting that a significant portion of jobs are filled through networking rather than regular posting. I found a powerful way of getting your weight up, at least for me, was joining a fraternity or sorority or an honor society, or whether it be Greek or an honor society, because it's a built-in network with the community, with positive personal growth. And when I was ready to run, I had a built-in system of volunteers ready to help, donate money, and do what I needed. While you're here on this campus, do not underestimate the power of networking, because many of your friends may be broke now, but they won't always be broke, all right? And so you need that networking. Grow and build those relationships. My best friend here is with me today, and we've had bonding experiences from high school and also here at Albany State, where she as well graduated. So it's 2008, and I'm in the restaurant, and I'm waiting for those results to come in, and I recognized at that moment that I did what I was supposed to do, right? I went to college, went to HBCU, I discovered myself, I changed my major, went to law school, removed the noise, became a prosecutor, used my networking to propel me to this moment in time. I did the work, now I had to trust the work. Win or lose, this journey was a powerful one because I dared to dream big. Because, as they say, if your dreams do not scare you, it ain't big enough. So we take these leadership positions in the community, and we have a duty to give back. To much is given, much is required. So for me, it started out singularly. It was to be fair to the community, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. But 17 years later, all I see is more and more African-American men coming in and out of my courtroom, and I realize that my mission has to be bigger. I'm looking at that bigger piece, and I want your help. You see, the people in this room will set standards as to how well the African-American community do in society in general. First, to do this, I need for you to truly understand the importance of loving self. We say we love Black people, but statistics show that we are killing each other in disproportionate numbers. The per capita offending rate for African Americans has been roughly 8 times that of whites. Black Lives Matter agenda is important, but just as important is how we treat each other. And it appears to me that sometimes Black men are afraid of each other and are buying into the hard culture and are actually choosing gun violence. That means that less and less men are available to create healthy African American families. And without healthy African American families, Young boys may be raised in a cycle of self-doubt and fear. And honestly, I'm sick and tired of sentencing young Black men to decades to life in prison. The culture has to change. We have to stop being okay with drug, gang, and hypersexualized culture because it is killing us. So my next goal in life is to start an organization built upon the premise of changing our cultural response to our self-image. I'm doing this because what I have learned in my observation, okay, not research, but my observation in 17 years. And what I have observed in my observation of criminal matters that I've handled, as well as domestic matters that I've handled, and observing the human experience, here's what I feel. I believe that Black families are in crisis. And this observation comes from a few things. One, marriage. Marriage or parental commitment is important to the rearing of children. Now, how do I know this? Because I cannot tell you how many countless times criminal defendants, the first thing they tell me at the sentencing, 85% of the time, my father was not in my life. First thing, 85% of the time. And so I say this, and I say it softly, but I need to be heard as well, because you can be all the strong Black woman you want to be in raising your child, but if your son does not have a sense of wholeness, your son is at risk without strong family support. Marriage contributes to wealth, and we must raise our sons and daughters not to be afraid of it. The study showed that 48% of eligible Black men under 40 are not married, 48%. Marriage is, in fact, a social contract with the intent to build wealth. Do you remember there was a time way back, and I say the olden days, like my kids tell me when they're talking about me, where your families would match you with people, right? That's how marriages were done. And that is because they're looking at trying to equally yoke people together. And some of that is based on wealth, because 2 incomes keeps you out of poverty. Ultimately, a 2-person household reduces the poverty rate, and poverty is a factor when you're looking at the criminal justice system. And so it is my position that we must encourage marriages and/or parental commitment. Black people, 3, Black people believe in the power of Black love. We say we love each other, but there is a disparity of Black men who consider marriages. For the Black men who are considering marriages, almost 25% of Black men who are considering marriage will marry outside of their race. Now, a study shows that Blacks marrying spouses of different race or ethnicities has tripled. Now, please make sure you understand this. There is nothing wrong with interracial marriages. I think love in marriage is inherently personal and cannot be generalized. I truly know this. But when this is done at alarming rates like this, we have to ask ourselves, like we deserve to ask ourselves, we must ask ourselves, why is this happening? And ultimately, do Black women lose the opportunity to marriage out of poverty? Black women, the child bearers of this race of people, do they lose out on the white picket fence? Do they get the opportunity to come out of poverty? And then what does this mean for the children that we are rearing? Families matter. And on a whole, some researcher says, this is from a New York Times article, that the Black middle class and lower class Black men have suffered what they call a rhetorical death. They specifically indicate that research shows that 1.5 Black men are missing from the everyday lived experiences due to incarceration, homicide, and HIV-related deaths. I challenge you on my observations to research with your backgrounds, sociology backgrounds, psychology backgrounds, criminology, wherever your backgrounds come from, I challenge you to research this. I encourage you, because the wellness of the Black family is real. And I believe that it is instrumental in the growth of our people, the race of our people, and as Americans. And there's no time like the present in this climate for these questions to be examined about the health and well-being of the Black family. I'm committed to doing something, and I ask you to do the same. I'm committed to doing something, and I tell you, you are on the cusp of witnessing it, because I believe I can make a difference. And so in sum, my message today is simple. It means to say that nothing in this world is too big for you, and that nothing in this world is impossible. And so while I was silent on that night in the room, waiting for my election results to come in, I began to understand that nothing is impossible. And everything that seems to be big isn't as big as you think it is. And I had to understand that I was capable of big things. And so now I'm not afraid of thinking big and dreaming big. I knew all of a sudden, for certain, that big things can happen to little Black girls from small Southern towns, that big things can happen to little Black boys from Albany State College, that big things can happen to small kids who struggle in math, that big things can happen to little Keisha who wants to be a singer, that big things can happen to Ricky who wants to run that ball, little Ricky, run that ball. That big things can happen to each and every one of you. That big things can happen when you understand the power of you. Thank you.
All right, I want us to do a little bit better than that, because that was a powerful message, a very, very powerful message. Wow, thank you so much for that, for igniting something in us that would make us want to research and go deeper in terms of what's happening in families. And so thank you for that. And so Judge will entertain a question or two. So if any of you from the audience, any students, if you have a question, she is willing to entertain a question or two.
Those students to do and how best to study for AL.
So let me tell you, the funny thing is, when I got ready to go to law school, because there was no role model for me, I had no idea. I didn't even know what the LSAT was. They told me to take a test. I signed up for it, and I went in that morning and took it. That was that. And so when the numbers came back in, I was like, oh, Lord, this actually is important. But I did not understand the importance of it. I just took the test, and I didn't do well on it. But because I was part of that Council of Legal Education Opportunity that I just mentioned to you, that was a program based for minority students who did not do well on the test but had academic success, and so they were basically preparing you for law school. So, but I would best absolutely tell you that in this climate, that LSAT will matter. I'm on the board of overseers at Albany, at Stetson University College of Law, and with the new Supreme Court rulings with regard to considering race, we have to, the whole landscape basically has changed with regard to admissions and the whole admissions process. So I would basically tell you that score is now extremely important. And so you need to take the opportunity to find classes and or a tutoring opportunity so that you can do well on that test, because it is now extremely important. So at one point where you were kind of looking at some of the other, your academic success or the things that you were doing at the school, that LSAT score is extremely important. So I would say there are a lot of opportunities online, take it up, but do not believe that you can walk in and it's a test of logic and you can just take it like I did and voila, because it is not, those voila moments are far and few in between now, because even if you have like, I think I graduated like a 3.75 or something like that, it wouldn't have been good enough for me to go into law school. I also Dr. Tucker here, she had some connections with Nova School of Law. And so she said to me, if you don't go through this program, I'm going to reach out and use those connections at Nova. And she did. And so I had the opportunity to go to Stetson or there, but Stetson gave me a full ride and I went there. But what I'm saying is it was really kind of just, it is preparation, but my husband always tells you it's preparation, opportunity, and some luck and grace, so you got to look at it from that perspective. And when that opportunity opens up, or when that blessing opens up, you got to be ready for it, right? So that's where your preparation comes in. Like, that's what you need to do. So when that opportunity opens up, you can walk through the door. You can't walk through the door if you're not ready. So there's a portion of presence where you have to be prepared, like you have to do your thing. And then there is a part that I do believe there's like this grace, this blessing, that doors just kind of open up and you got to be ready to walk through them. So long story short, absolutely, this LSAT is what it is. So go ahead and start preparing for it. Do not wait to the last minute, and take it seriously. But there's so many online programs that you can take advantage of, but you got to prepare for that. Like, you got to make some sacrifices to get ready and prepare for it, and just don't take it lightly. Yeah. Yes. Well, they now have a lot of part-time programs. Even Stetson has a part-time program. Part-time program, of course, takes you longer, but sometimes people are, particularly with non-traditional students or students who are like married, have families, need to work because they got to prepare for their family. I think a part-time program, of course, makes sense, and generally it's about 5 years. Could be a little bit less than that. But I think the whole point of that is to give you that opportunity if you're working. Now, for me, though, if you don't need to work, I would just take them 3 years and go ahead and, get it done. But like I said, I went to Albany State. I graduated here in 3 years because I went to summer school. I went to summer school this summer. Graduated, and I went to summer school every summer. So I finished here in 3 years because, of course, like I said, I needed to save the world. And so in the back of my mind, I was like, I need to go. I got to go. I got to get this law degree, So, it's really up to you. But if you don't have to work, I would say do the 3-year program. Mm-hmm. Like, what do I think the difference is? Well, first of all, I think to me the larger part is the attitude is always important, right? So if you have a parent who is positive, that positive attitude means it means everything. I do domestic matters all the time, like each and every day I'm handling domestic matters. And that generally means someone's fighting over custody or they're getting a divorce and there's some property and issues like that you see each and every day. I think attitude is one. You got to have a positive attitude. That's why my tagline on my everything I send out is I see the glass half full, because I think that's important. I think that when you have a parent who is willing to invest in their children, you could tell the difference with regard to that. And then you have some parents who just don't know how to invest. It's not like they don't want to invest in their children. They just don't know how to do it. They don't know how to reach out. They don't know that they don't know how to tap into those resources. One of the things that's really, think about it, if you don't know that there is a resource out there in the world for you, how do you take advantage of it? You can't take advantage of it if you don't know that the resource is there. There are plenty of opportunities. We have a plethora of organizations that are always willing to help, right? But if you don't know that those organizations exist, but more importantly, you don't know how to get to it, that makes a difference. My mom was always shied away from parent-teacher conferences, and I didn't know why. So one time I just asked her, and she said she didn't feel comfortable at the parent-teacher meetings. Why was that? I don't know. Probably because of the differences in the education. But if your parent doesn't feel comfortable, how do they help you if they're uncomfortable in that space, right? So I think the difference has always been the attitude. And so you got to have a positive attitude. When you do, it's reflective in the decision making, and I think it's also reflective in your choices that you make. Let me tell you, the most important thing my dad would always say, you can't be scared. You can't be scared. So if you are afraid, that makes a difference. So if you want to be a change agent, one is that you can't be scared. And in order to not be afraid, you have to understand and believe in what you're doing. So like when I got ready to prepare for today, so I'm on my way, we're on the way here, and I read a portion of my speech to my best friend, and I tell her, I was like, you think they're ready for it? You know, and because you don't know how you're going to be received. But for me, I said to myself, I have to say this, right? So I have to be brave enough to say to you, here is what I experienced. It may not go over well, but it has to be heard. How can I be a change agent if I'm fearful, right? And so when I say it like this, if I believe in it, right, then I have to be able to put my money in my words or behind what I'm saying. And so for me, I think one, you can't be afraid. Two, you got to believe in it, right? And I think one of the things that you indicated, you said, well, she was a judge, but she had this heart, right? To me, I think you just got to care. It's ultimately, you just got to care. You have to care about the community, and you got to care about what you're doing. Every morning I wake up, I promise you, I just feel like sometimes it feels like a load, but sometimes it's such a great blessing. I look in the mirror and I say, what can I do today that's going to make a difference in somebody's life? Right? Like I say that every morning. It's amazing to me. I don't know. I should probably have a stroke or a heart attack by now. But I say it every morning. Like, what can I do? What's going to make the difference in somebody's life? Because I know I stand in a position where that can happen. You know, somebody comes to me and they'll say, you know, my son robbed this bank, but he's a great kid. And, you know, he's done X, Y, and Z, right? Like I literally can make the difference in your life. I can go, yes, or I can go, no. You know, and no means here are your 20 years. And yes could be, okay, I'm gonna put you in a program. Right? It's just, think about that. That is the authority that is given to me by the state of Georgia. You know, I mean, literally, I can say, yes, I'll give you 20 years, or literally I can say, this is the death penalty. I have the authority for death. So it is significant, you know, and I think it's really important that we understand, and I'm gonna tell you, if you don't take anything away from today, take this. Don't be afraid. But also make sure that your message is receivable, right? Like you need to be able to craft your words and craft your research so that it can be received. Because you can be afraid, but if you say it the wrong way, nobody hears it. And you're just screaming, bok, 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 but nobody hears you because of the way you're delivering it. So I think when you care about how you deliver the message, it comes and hopefully people can receive it better, and then you're making a difference. So I'm very careful about the words that I use, very careful about the words, but I want to make certain that in the end you're able to hear the message that I'm delivering to you. And particularly now when I look at the fact that I've been doing this for 17 years, I've seen some things. It makes no sense for me to keep it, right? So I'm delivering to you what I see and what is going on and what I see. And I understand, because I know we got some research out there, some of this is in my little bubble, right? You might see the worst of the worst, and it doesn't mean that there's not great things going over here on the left and the right. And I appreciate that, and I understand that. You know, sometimes I'm driving down the road, like a murder there, robbery there, rape happened there. My husband's like, please, can we just get to lunch, you know? And that's because that's my life, you know, I get that. So I'm delivering you my observation and asking for you to say, let's do some research. Let's figure this out. And there was a question in the back. Excellent. And feel free, for those in the room, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to me, and I will always share my experiences and anything that I can do to help. I also, sometimes I offer in the summers programs, and sometimes there are paid programs too. The only difference, of course, is that I'm in Atlanta. But we do whatever we can. I offer a lot of in-chamber programs. Sometimes they're paid. Sometimes I'm out of funds, and the students like, well, I still want to come. I want to watch and I want to learn. And we do whatever we can because I remember what was given to me, and of course, I want to give that back to Albany State as well. Oh, well, let me tell you something. I love a HBCU. Honestly, for me, and I mentioned this in my speech. I feel like it's. I love the HBCU because we are in a community, and sometimes people will go, "Oh, that was he did that because I was black." Well, did he? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing, when you come here, you know the answer to that question, is no. And so I think it gives you an opportunity to discover yourself. And then the things that you think are happening to you because you're black, when you're here, you don't have that. And so you get to examine who you are without that extra layer of the things, and the idea of the feeling of being safe with regard to exploring your thoughts and exploring your feelings, that you can't necessarily feel it that safe when you're at PWIs. Now, I went to Stetson. Stetson is primarily a white institution, but I was ready for Stetson. I said what I had to say, and I was comfortable in that because I had this foundation, this experience. So I think that, everybody's very different. I have one son at Tuskegee, and his experience is very different from my son who is at University of Alabama, and when they're talking together, it's like they have very different experiences. And so for one kid, that's great, and for another kid, this one is great. And so, when you talk about your college experience, it really is depending on who you are and how comfortable you are and those sorts of things. So they're different institutions that kind of match who they are. But I'm always partial to a HBCU because I just feel like it gives you so much power and authority. And so when I went to Stetson, I just felt powerful, ready. I felt that I kind of knew who I was and I knew where I was going. And to me, that was everything. And I think it made a difference. So when I said in my speech that I really meant that, I meant that I took advantage of figuring out who I was when I was here on this campus. And that's what you should be doing, figuring out who you are, why you are here in this comfort, in this safeness. And when you really know who you are, like that feeling like I can do this, think about it. I'm 33 years old and I'm trying to run for a Superior Court judge. Like I was 33. Most of the judges on the bench was like 66. I walked into a room, I was like, hello, I'm here, and I was the only black female in the room of 209 Superior Court judges in DeKalb County. I mean, in the state, because we have state meetings. Well, one of the few, I'm not the only one, but it was like one of my first meetings. It was like I walked in, and I mean, literally everybody there was probably 60, years old, and I was just like, hello, go into the room, But I was comfortable in that, and so I went to every meeting. I spoke up. I said what I had to say. But you got to have that sense before you leave here. That's what you need to be. That's your thing. Your thing is to leave here not afraid, to leave here comfortable in who you are, to leave here with a sense of confidence, so that when you go out in the world, when someone tells you, do you want to run for this office, or someone tells you, do you want this position, you won't go, no, they won't consider me. I apply for the Supreme Court every time it's open in the state of Georgia. They tell me, oh, well, it's a political, oh, no, it's this. But if I don't try to do it, there is no way I'll ever become a member of the Supreme Court of Georgia if I don't apply. And when I apply, I'm not half-stepping. I'm putting it all in it. Because for me, the glass is always half full. Thank you.